Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. I've been wanting to do this video for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I've uh, I've become kind of obsessed with the Moody Blues, except for the CD exchange with Glenn. I listen to the albums he's given me during the day when I'm cleaning or whatever with my headphones. But at night, all I've been playing are the 7 albums I own by the Moody Blues. Days of Future, Days of Future Past, In Search of the Lost Chord, On the Threshold of a Dream, To Our Children's Children's Children, A Question of Balance, Every Good Boy Deserves Favor, and Seventh Soldier. So my history with the Moody Blues is there's not much of a history. uh, the first album I ever heard of theirs, one of my older brothers had, Every Good Boy Deserves Favor. I love this album cover. And that's one of many things that's great about the Moody Blues is their album covers. And I absolutely loved The Story in Your Eyes right away. It's one of my favorite Moody Blues songs. But I would say the rest of the album over the years, I never got totally into. I thought it was just, okay. Kind of you'd listen to this album and then you wouldn't remember it for the most part. And then a couple of years ago, one of the CD exchanges with Glenn Kellaway from the basement, I think in time he gave me 2 albums, and I believe they were on the Threshold of a Dream and In Search of the Lost Chord. And I believe I ended up loving this album and liking this, but not loving it as much as this one. And as some of my viewers know or have seen, I've talked about ranking the Moody Blues albums on this channel off and on, probably for a couple of years. But back then, I wasn't completely enamored with them as a band, and now I am. So at some point, I'm still I keep playing these albums over and over every night. I play, I would say three to four of the albums every night for the past few nights. And I am just amazed. They've it's difficult for me to express. As some of you know, music means a lot to me, and I know that music means a lot to a lot of you out there. And you've got your favorite bands and artists, and we never agree on everything. Some people aren't fans of Sparks, and that's fine. And about a week or two ago, I posted a poll, and it's right here. Are the Moody Blues one of your top 10 favorite bands of all time? And I expected, I wasn't expecting like 80% yeses or anything, but I was kind of disheartened, I guess, and disappointed with the over 500 votes. Only 14% said yes, they were in their top 10. And it just upset me a bit. And I'll read just a handful of the comments. My second, this is Lawrence Girazio 987. My second favorite band after the Beatles. Can listen to any of their first 7 albums from Days of Future Past to Seventh Sojourn and never have the desire to skip a song, and I agree. Sets a mood for me that no other band does. I kind of agree with that. The Beatles were much more diverse in their catalog, so I rank them number 1. But I always want to skip a few songs when listening to a Beatles album. I don't myself, but I can see that. Pete Hall 4399, their top 20 for me. Have gone off Nights in White Satin as radio stations seem to think it's the only song they ever made, and I can't listen to it now, but Question is one of my all-time favorites. And Karsten Post 1477 makes me just a little sad to recognize that only a minority of us counts them Magnificent Moody Blues to their favorite bands. Maybe some re-listening could help. Check out their marvelous sounds and compositions and enjoy. Chris Profi, Musically Obsessed. Why don't the Moody Blues get more love? I agree, Chris. Lee Thomas, 2155, not in my top 10, but I do like them and I have their entire catalog. Their best work goes up to the album The Present for me. After that, some of the albums are a bit weaker. Joe Blogs, 8636. I love how there's always numbers after these usernames. But it's the band that made the classic 7 albums, not the pop band from 1986 onward. Unfortunately, it's the only era the younger ones know. And Rob Harrison, 8139, top 5 for me. Nice. So, you know, there are a few out there that are fans. I have a personal story to tell. And it's about, you know, listening to music and getting emotional. I got really emotional. And I don't even remember. All I remember is it was one of these albums. Like I said, for me, all 7 of these albums I now consider masterpieces. I love, I finally got Every Good Boy Deserves Favor. I finally really listened to it, and I think it's amazing. But there was one particular album where, and it was 3 songs in a row. And the first song, I have this book, The Moody Blues, Every Album, Every Song. So I'm reading what the author, Jeffrey Beeks, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, is saying about the songs. And he mentioned the first song that was getting me kind of weepy. And then I was reading that, I think it was John Lodge. He wrote it about his dad. And then the tears just, you know, flooded because my dad, right, who passed away a few years back, it just brought back memories of my dad. So that song really hit me. And the thing is, the next song, which was written by one of the other members, because, you know, they're all so talented. This is going to be a long video. I apologize. It might have been Ray Thomas. And his song affected me. The way he was singing it, the vocals. I don't know if it was just the lyrics. I think it was the music and his vocals. And I was crying again. And then the third song in a row, it might have been a Justin Hayward song. And it got to me emotionally too. And that's the longest time, you know, when listening to music, that music has really affected me. And yeah, once, you know, I still need to listen to all of these again. Like, all I know is when I listen to each and every album, I am completely 100%. You know, there's times you listen to certain albums, you kind of drift off with your mind and you're thinking about what groceries you need the next day or whatever. That isn't the case with the Moody Blues for me. I'm 100% listening, and but there's so much material on these 7 albums that, you know, there's some songs. I'll read the song title, Beyond, from to our children's children's children, and I don't remember it, but all I know is when I go to play this again, I'm gonna love each and every song. And that's the thing about the Moody Blues. There's so much more I'd like to say, but I don't want to drag this out too much more. I just feel they need a lot more respect. I know that Scott from the Prog Corner, he's doing a ranking, I believe, pretty soon, so I hope you check out his video. I'm looking forward to that. But he made a statement. I don't know if he was completely serious, but I think he said it's like they're hard to rank. Like every album is number 1. I wanted to mention the production on these albums by Tony Clark is just amazing. He's like the George Martin of the Moody Blues. The band members, all 5 of them, are so talented. I did a video recently, like what bands have the most talent. I never even thought of the Moody Blues, but they'd be right near the top. Justin Hayward, John Lodge, the great bass, the bass work he does, and then of course on top of it, the songs he's written. Ray Thomas. I used to kind of think, you know, I also did a recent video about musicians that don't look like rock stars. And, you know, back in the day I was thinking, that guy doesn't look like he belongs in a rock band. But it's just recently I've realized when listening to all of these albums that Ray's vocals are just so good. They are as good as Justin's vocals. They're different, but he's an amazing artist. And then Graham Edge, the drumming on these albums is very underrated, I feel. And speaking of Justin Hayward, he's got to be the most underrated guitarist out there. He's not a show-offy guitarist, but you know, a song like Ride My Seesaw, the guitar riffs in that are just, I don't know, just classy and catchy. And but throughout all these albums, there's so much tasteful, you know, acoustic guitar work too by Justin. So besides being an amazing singer and songwriter, he is a great guitarist. But all of the musicians are great on their instruments. And then Mike Pinder, I think, listening to all of these albums, and he always has a song or 2 or 3 on each album. I think he's the soul of the Moody Blues, and his mellotron on a lot of these albums, and his vocals, of course, very spiritual. And then the one thing I forgot to mention is back in the 80s, the Moody Blues put out the album Long Distance Voyager, which was a huge hit with, you know, Gemini Dream. And back then I used to disc jockey, and we used to play, you know, Moody Blues songs like Gemini Dream, and they'd be big on the dance floor. And it was, you know, they kind of changed with the times, and they were a bit more poppy. But I listened to that album the other night all the way through, and it was like, damn, this is a good album too. The only one I haven't listened to of the early ones is Octave. And I've heard, you know, it's not quite as strong as the other album, you know, the Core 7 or even Long Distance Voyager. But I think once I do listen to it, I'm sure it's going to be a fine album, even if it's not up to par with their best. And, I think in time, I want to get everything by the Moody Blues, even, their later albums that I guess weren't quite as excellent, after Mike Pinder left. But it's almost like I wanted to get this off my chest for the last, seems like a month. Moody Blues, Moody Blues. It's like you become obsessed with a certain artist, and there's times I think, is this the second best band of all time after the Beatles? And I'm not joking, because this run, just the run of those 7 albums, and the many times I've listened to all 7 of these in the past few weeks, I've just totally changed my mind about the Moody Blues. And I'm just hoping, when I do a video like this, there's always somebody out there who checks out the artist. And if you haven't listened to the Moody Blues, or you've just listened to a little bit of them, I highly suggest you go back in time, listen to In Search of the Lost Chord. And that's one other thing is, I think they were the first prog band. Maybe it wasn't prog rock. It was symphonic prog rock. But they do, they rock out once in a while. There's one song, the closing track from A Question of Balance, called The Balance. The ending of that is so heavy. It just blew my mind. So yeah, I now am a proud fan of the Moody Blues. And I just hope, especially, the younger people out there that aren't familiar with them, all these albums I've mentioned, I hope you check them out. This one, Days of Future Past, with probably their best known song, Nights in White Satin, which is just amazing. The Story in Your Eyes. I'm just a singer in a rock and roll band. Isn't Life Strange? It sure is. Ride My Seesaw, with amazing guitar work. And even some of their album openers, it's total experimental prog rock. Higher and higher, from To Our Children's Children's Children. Yeah. So that's it for now. At some point, I'm going to rank all of these, at least these 7 albums, in a video. But like I said, I don't want to rush into it when I don't know what I'm talking about. There's still a lot more to discover with this music. And that's the thing about a band like the Moody Blues, is every time you listen to the album, you pick up something new with it. Yeah. So that's it. I would love your thoughts. And I know I'm going to get comments like, oh, they're okay, but, blah, blah, blah. But have you actually really listened to any of these albums recently? It might open up your mind. That's it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.